to be it. The Knights take their third league title in 3 years, just 4 years since they were formed.
With the Leeds Knights being crowned NIHL champions for a history-making third time in a row, I thought now would be the perfect time to dedicate the second episode of this series to the Knights' most consistent player over those last 3 dominant seasons, Kieran Brown.
Gets it to Bissonette. Bissonette with a pass to Brown. Brown goes around his man. Gets the shot in. What a goal! Kieran Brown!
With this series, I go back through players' careers, reliving their greatest moments and giving them a new life through paint, solidifying their mark on their respective team's history by painting these moments onto their iconic jersey numbers. In this series, my main goal is to connect with hockey fans all around the world as I paint players from various different leagues. However, today's video will be slightly different, as I won't be painting specific moments from Kieran Brown's career, as I intend to with every other player in the future episodes, because unfortunately it was really difficult to find reference photos of Kieran's best moments to paint. So instead, I spent the time I would usually use to research to go through social media to find reference photos of Kieran that I think both capture his aura and will look good when painted in my style. So let's start with the practice sketch. I already drew the number 1 and 2 for Kieran's number 12 on his jersey, and I used that as my base. For the top portrait, I drew Kieran Brown looking into the distance, giving off an intimidating look, perfect for the top portrait on this number as it's presented over the bottom portrait of Kieran celebrating. And I made sure to draw shadows around his eyes and on the side of his face to really exaggerate this look. With the bottom portrait, I made sure to really capture the emotion of the expression on Kieran Brown's face. I think this portrait will capture his passion for Leeds Knights, whilst also conveying his ability to always find a way to score goals. And I made the most of the larger space at the bottom of the number 1 by really focusing on the detail of the jersey and of the Leeds Knights logo, making sure that the logo is recognisable as Kieran Brown wears it on his chest with pride. Moving on to the number 2 now, I drew Kieran Brown celebrating with a trophy, something that he is used to doing with the Leeds Knights. And I made the most of the awkward shape at the bottom of the number 2 by capturing his posture as he celebrates holding the trophy. For the next portrait, I wanted to sketch Kieran Brown playing. Yet again, the posture for this portrait was something I really focused on, as I tried to emphasise Kieran's ability to skate past defenders with ease, due to his agility and quick hands. And I tried my best to make this painting here familiar with Leeds Knights fans by really capturing how he holds his stick and looks up at the opponents when skating on the ice, and trying to emulate that with the posture in this painting. And with the small space left in the top left part of the 2, I decided to utilise the part of the number with a close-up drawing of Kieran Brown, really focusing on all the details, especially in the visor of the helmet. I was really happy with how these sketches turned out, and now it's time for the fun part, painting all the portraits whilst using the sketches of both numbers as a rough guide. And I will be using acrylic paints for these paintings. I used a solid black for the facial features, such as the eyes, nose and mouth, to really exaggerate them, hoping it would make the portraits instantly recognisable. Making sure to use this same technique on the bottom portrait to really bring the focus to the facial expression. And I work from dark to light when layering up the different shades of grey within this painting. I paint in this style because I always like to paint portraits using shapes I can see within the face. I'm not really sure why I do this, but I think it's from being influenced from a very young age by pop art and old comic book artwork, where at first the portrait may look simple, but then when you get close to it you can see all the shapes and all the paint being layered up within the portrait. This is just a style that's always worked for me, and I think it really helps to make the portrait recognisable and allows me to add in loads of little details without it being too overwhelming. And I think this first number turned out great. I was really happy with how I captured the lighting across the visor, using pure white to give off the reflection effect. I used lighter shades of grey and pure white for the creases in the clothing to give texture to the jersey with creases and folds. The parts of the number that weren't covered by these portraits, I used the traditional blue that is on Leeds Knights jerseys for players' names and numbers. I decided to start out at the top again when painting the portraits on the number 2. This portrait was definitely the most challenging one due to the visor, but by painting the shapes I could see in the reflections of it, I feel like I managed to capture the effect. Using a small amount of pure white across the nose really helped to show the shape of the visor without having to cover the rest of the portrait up. When painting Kieran in motion playing, I was worried it wouldn't work due to the details being so small, but thankfully I made it work by patiently layering up different shades of grey and making sure to utilise the darker shades by using them as shadows. The final portrait was relatively simple due to the fact that all I had to do was to make sure I painted his body proportions and posture correctly. And I also used light shades of grey to really convey the creases in the jersey, helping to indicate the movement in this piece as Kieran celebrates with the trophy. And again, I was really happy with how this turned out. I feel like I made the most of the space on the number 2, despite it being an awkward number to fit paintings within. I then carefully placed the numbers onto a piece of white A2 paper, hoping that the white would help make the white and blue of the Leeds Knights jersey that I took inspiration from be reflective of this piece. And it was really cool to see that Kieran Brown and the Leeds Knights had both liked this over on my Instagram, and they also shared it as well, which was a really cool and special moment. Let me know your thoughts on this painting down below in the comment section, and I'd just like to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in episode 3 of this series.